Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and today we find ourselves in Shady Grove, USA, where while the citizens are sleeping at night, a battle is brewing. The world's greatest heroes team up to stop an onslaught of supervillainy. However, these nefarious, no-good nicks are hidden in plain sight as residents of Shady Grove. The heroes must find their secret identities before it's too late. One Night Ultimate Supervillain is based on the best-selling One Night Ultimate Werewolf series, but it's got a totally different feel and unique set of rules that allows players to quickly dive into this super-powered game. It's a hidden identity game for 3 to 10 players for ages 14 and up, and only takes 10 minutes to play. Now it's on Kickstarter right now, so I'm going to show you how the game works, and then I'll see you on the other side. Now this is a Kickstarter preview, so all the components you see here are prototype material. You'll want to check the Kickstarter link in the description of this video to see all the final components. One Night Ultimate Supervillains is a social deduction game for 3 to 10 players. So here I have some of the most basic rules out. In general, there's a heroes team, which have a blue background and have hero on them. There's a villain team, which will have a red background and will say supervillain, and some roles will kind of be on their own team, like the Mad Scientist, which will have its own color and its own team name on there. Now I'm setting this up for a 4-player basic game, and even though there's 7 of these, 3 of them will be randomly face down in the middle, and people won't know at the beginning which cards are there and which ones are in front of any of the other people. So for example, in a 4-player game, all these would be randomly dealt out. Here are the 4 different players, and then here's the 3 random ones in the middle. At the beginning, everyone's going to be able to look at their own card and see what role there are, and then an app is going to walk you through the different parts of the game. Now before I walk through how the app works, let me tell you a little bit more about how the game works in general. The game has 2 phases. There's the night phase and the day phase. During the night phase, the app's going to walk us through in just a moment, and everyone's going to close their eyes, and certain roles are going to open their eyes and do things in a certain order. The app will help show you how to do this. At the end of that, it becomes the day phase, and there's a timer, usually around 5 minutes, where everyone's talking about who they are, what they're trying to do, who are the good guys, who are the bad guys, and they're trying to figure out who is lying. At the end of those 5 minutes, everyone is going to simultaneously point at a specific person that is sitting around the table. Now the supervillains are trying to make sure that none of the villains have the most people pointing at them, because if so, they are caught as a team and the heroes would win as a team. So obviously, the heroes are trying to figure out who are the villains, so they can point together and collaboratively catch the supervillains at the end of the game, so the hero team wins. Now the Mad Scientist, since he's on his own team, he is actually trying to be suspicious and wants to have the most people pointing at him at the end so that he can get caught and win on his own team. He even wins alone if he's tied with the most votes along with a supervillain. Now this is the order in which the app is going to walk through the different things, so let's show you how to set the game up in the app. Now the app is a free download that you can get from the Bezier Games website. Now once you have the app open, you can simply press onto the different roles by highlighting them. If they're highlighted, they're the ones that's in the game. So you simply want to highlight the different roles that you've selected for the game. In the bottom left, you can set the game timer. 5 minutes is good. And then you can just go ahead and hit play, and it will walk you through it.
Night has fallen over the city. Everyone, close your eyes. Supervillains, wake up. Look for other supervillains. Form your nefarious plans and activate your superpowers. Dr. Peeker. You may secretly peek at another player's card using your high-tech specs.
The supervillains get to see each other and watch each other take their actions.
Supervillains, close your eyes and try not to get caught. Mad Scientist. Just to make a point, you ran an entire marathon while holding a pair of scissors. Not just coincidentally, the invention of mozzarella cheese has been removed from the timeline. Seeking some sort of redemption, you figure that you'll only win if you get caught. Annoying lad. Wake up and annoy one of your neighbors by tapping their shoulder several times. Annoying lad. Stop being so annoying and close your eyes. Detector. Wake up and engage your high voltage detection field. You may look at one other player's card or two of the center cards.
And note that while these different people are doing their roles, everyone else's eyes are closed.
Detector, close your eyes and turn off your high voltage detection field before someone gets electrocuted. Roll Retriever, wake up. That's a good boy. You may steal a card from any other player, replacing it with your original card. Then view your new card. You are now that role. Do not wake up again or wag your tail if your new card is called. Roll Retriever. Close your eyes and dream about chasing bunnies through a poppy field. Switcheroo. Wake up. You may get all Freaky Friday and switch cards between two other players, but do not look at those cards. Switcheroo. Close your eyes. Everyone, keep your eyes closed and move your cards around slightly.
And this is just to make sure that if people's cards were messed with, you can't tell who it was.
Everyone, wake up. You now have 5 minutes to catch a supervillain.
And so at this point, as the timer goes down, everyone is trying to figure out who is who did what. They're asking questions about what they did, what they saw, what role they are, and the heroes are trying to figure out who the villains are, and the villains are trying to blend in and say they're one of the heroes, and naturally there's going to be some differences between what people say and what they really are. The app will actually notify you when there's 1 minute remaining and when there's 30 seconds remaining to make sure everyone knows how much time's left.
Only 30 seconds left.
And when it gets to the end, it will have everyone point. The heroes are trying to catch the supervillains, and the supervillains are trying to get a hero to have the most people pointing at them. So let's look at some of the other roles that are in the game. Let's look at the first two other supervillains. Rapscallion gets to secretly look at one of these cards that's in the center when they're awake. The Temptress gets to take any other villain and place it perpendicular to the three center cards. Then she is going to be able to wake up and take this card and give it to one of the other heroes, putting their hero card here. Also, keep in mind that all supervillains get to keep their eyes open to see what the other villains are doing, but they can't see the cards that the others are viewing. Now here's the other heroes that you could possibly use as well. The Mirror Man actually gets to wake up before the villains and look at one of the center cards, and when that role is called later, they do what that role says because they are now that role. The Evilometer sticks her fist out while the villains are awake, and if there is a villain sitting next to them, any one of them can tap that person's fist anywhere on there. Voodoo Lou wakes up and can look at any of the three center cards. If he does so, he takes that and gives it to somebody else, replacing their card with that one. He can also replace himself if he'd like to. This self-awareness girl opens her eyes late in the process and gets to see if she's still the self-awareness girl or not, so she'll know exactly who she is, and she'll put it face down, so when the day phase comes up, she'll know exactly who she is. The innocent bystander is not a hero, but he's on the hero's team and wins with them. And that's important because Flipper will flip over the roll cards of any other player with only her eyes open. If it's not a hero, she'll flip it face down again. In this case, it was a villain, but if it was the innocent bystander, and since they're not a hero, they would also be flipped face down. She doesn't have to tell anyone if they flipped anyone or not, but if it's a hero, it must stay flipped face up. These next 6 roles are stretch goals for the Kickstarter campaign. The Family Man will be told to wake up, and they'll be told to look at 1, 2, or 3 players to their left or right, or both sides depending on the player count. Here we see 2 of the different possibilities. He has to keep all of those players from being caught at the end, meaning having the most people pointing at them. The Defenderer gets to protect someone from being caught, so at the end of the round, whoever this player is pointing to, that player, even if they have the most people pointing at them, cannot be caught. It's the one who had the second most people pointing at them that would be caught. The Sponge does not wake up at night, but any players pointing at the Sponge do not count, meaning they aren't pointing at anyone. This can change the total amount of people actually pointing at others to be caught. Ricochet Rhino can ricochet people pointing at them, meaning if the Ricochet Rhino player has the most people pointing at them, it's whoever the Ricochet Rhino player is pointing at that gets caught. Windy Wendy starts as a hero. However, if at least one villain is pointing at her, then she also becomes a villain. And this means that if Windy Wendy has the most players pointing at her, and at least one of those players is a villain, the villains have been caught. And in these stretch goals, an additional innocent bystander is added. Well, there you have One Night Ultimate supervillains, and as I've shown in the overview, it does have some of those basic roles that are similar to the ones used in One Night Ultimate Werewolf to help you get started quickly. But there's also many more involved roles that you can grow into using. Also, having the villains be able to watch the other villains complete their night actions really changes things up quite a bit. Finally, the theme of this game is much more family friendly than previous versions, since you're not voting to eliminate or kill others, you're simply pointing to get villains caught. Now if you'd like to see the final art and components and all the different pledge levels available, you can click the link below me in the description of this video. It will take you to the Kickstarter project page, and I'm sure the fine folks at Bezier Games would love your support.